Welcome one and all to episode 17 of Titan Teatime. I'm one of your hosts, Petter, and with me I have my co-host, James.
Howdy. Well, I never say howdy. Why did I say howdy? Sorry.
I usually say howdy somewhat ironically, but
I mean, I guess that was kind of what I was going for, but you know.
very well. In this month's episode, we're talking about the most recent chapter of the Attack on Titan manga, 134, In the Depths of Despair.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a good title, and right off the bat, I just want to say, well, my experience with this chapter among the fans seemed to be mostly negative, actually. I mean, obviously, there were people that enjoyed it, and there were people that enjoyed bits of it, but this chapter, surprisingly, at least for me, received an unusual amount of dislike in various little ways, I think. And personally, I absolutely liked it. I don't think it's a perfect chapter, but I definitely liked it. How about you?
I honestly loved it.
Yes.
For mostly for the imagery, to be honest. I think it was very poetic in that sense. I mean, I think, and we'll go into this as the chapter goes on, I think there can be like some messages taken from this, like symbolically, and you know what is this supposed to represent? But at the end of the day, I think it's just up to the reader's interpretation. I don't know if a lot of these images, I don't know if they're meant to be interpreted a certain way, but they're so powerful that they invoke a certain feeling in you, and that could be different for each person. So that's why I really like this chapter, mostly for the imagery.
Right.
Upon hearing that not a lot of people liked it, because I think it was you who broke it to me, I was like, oh, really? I mean, although I feel like the more chapters we go, the more and more I hear about people not liking the chapters. So I wonder if that's just going to be a thing. The closer we get to the end, just the more people are just going to be against it potentially. I don't know, but then maybe at the end everybody will be happy. Who knows?
I hope so.
Yeah, we hope so. I guess for me it's after hearing what people were where they had the gripes about this, I definitely saw that, and I will admit it kind of changed a bit of my opinion on the chapter in some cases. At the end of the day, I still think I'd say I love it. I think it was a good end of this volume and a good kind of cliffhanger for what's about to happen next, because there's a few things that could happen, at least I believe. So I'm excited to see where it goes, and we'll obviously talk about that at the end. But
Yeah, and I think to add to your what you mentioned about like the imagery revoking pretty strong feelings in some of the pages here and stuff like that, what adds to that I think is the quality of the art in this chapter.
True.
I thought that was so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into it, I guess.
Yeah.
So yes, the first page, I think, got a bit of a chuckle out of both of us the first time we read this.
Oh yes.
based on what my prediction from last month.
Yeah, you swipe I swipe the page and immediately you see Historia. It's, oh my gosh, Petter, it came true. Yeah, the curse is alive and well.
But the thing is though, to be precise, like, this isn't what I didn't ask for last chapter.
Well, and you're right. I listened back, and you said you wanted a or you said there won't be a Historia focus, and there wasn't a Historia focus, but she did appear. So so technically, I mean, I guess it did occur.
It's just like,
but
yeah, like, because initially it seemed like this would be a Historia focused chapter based on only the first page.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, oh really? Is it really gonna do this? Then it didn't actually, and I think just to be a little bit clear about this, if anyone didn't listen to previous episodes or whatever, basically we usually have a predictions discussion at the end of each episode, and I've been predicting or wanting to have more Historia focus, like more depth into her psyche and her past. For many episodes in a row, I basically had that as my kind of standing prediction. However, last month I said no. I said specifically not that.
You pulled a Steven.
And so, yeah, about Levi. That one actually came true, like full on.
Full on.
That was so fun. But yes, and I think One theory that some people in the fandom have had is that Historia has been faking a pregnancy. I think at this point that's probably basically confirmed not to be the case.
Unless she's really good at faking, being in labor.
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
quite understood that theory. I understand where people were coming from in the sense that they didn't want it to be true. They didn't want her character just to be pregnant.
Mm,
But
for sure.
there was no proof or nothing to show that she wasn't pregnant, especially when at the point where she goes to Aaron and says, "I have an idea," or something, or like she's gonna get pregnant or something like that, and then she talks to the farmer guy or whatever. I think it was pretty
Hmm.
obvious at that point. If anybody had any doubt, like she was pregnant, well, now it's obvious that she's about to give birth.
Yeah,
Um, Real quick
yeah.
about just seeing Historia here, I too thought that there would be more of a Historia focus in the chapter when she saw the first page, and then she
Uh-huh.
never came. It never came true. When I first read it, I was a bit disappointed because I thought we would get a little more. I mean, I wasn't sure what we would get, to be honest. I was actually expecting to see the baby itself,
Mm,
but
yeah.
clearly they're
Oh yeah.
saving that for the end, whether it be the final chapter or um, some other moment. But I understand where people are coming when they are frustrated at just seeing Historia here and not in the action, so to speak.
Yeah, and like I am in a way disappointed in the direction that ECM has gone with Historia's character. However, at the same time, I kind of well, in ECM we trust and all that. But
Yeah.
it's like I somehow have faith that he will somehow twist it up before the
Hmm.
end and make it worthwhile. I don't know how, but that's what I like to keep telling myself.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I have faith that he'll make it worthwhile. I don't think it will be what some Historia fans are hoping for. Like she's not gonna come in holding one baby in the arm and somehow control Aaron from stopping attacking the world or something like that. It's not gonna be like that. That's gonna be
No,
Annie.
no.
No, I'm just kidding. Uh, no,
Yeah.
it it's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be some sort of message, an important message, probably
Mm,
something similar to uh, what Aaron's mother said about Aaron. Maybe something like I think there could be some parallels there, um, but maybe not. I just spitballing ideas. It probably could have something to do about freedom or being born into this world.
mm,
Um, Either way, I agree that I agree with those people who, or excuse me, I understand where people are coming from when they say they're disappointed, but you also have to realize that I do think her character kind of fulfilled its role in a sense that she was given, in that she was meant to become the head or the figurehead for the parody's monarchy government, if you
right.
will. And
Mm,
um, I once she filled that role and accepted her that role, I I don't mean not to say that's where her story ends, but she's not going to be one of the main characters, or at least a main character as much as she was in the past. And I do feel
right.
bad for Historia fans in that fact, but it's just that's just where the narrative went.
It is. It absolutely is. And yeah. And obviously ECM hasn't forgotten about her. Obviously
No,
he has something in mind because
exactly.
just because of this page here.
To me, it's almost relative to what's happening in the world currently with the
Mm,
Titans rumbling and how she's in pain from giving birth. The people are in pain from losing life, or potentially Aaron's in pain from taking life.
mm,
Um, that could be a possible parallel. I'm not saying that's exactly what's being shown here, but I do think it's very powerful that we're seeing a moment where life is beginning and then life is ending, and
true.
it's dramatic.
It absolutely is. And yeah, these following pages show like locations all around the world being laid to waste by the rumbling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at this point it's with these pages where you really start to understand that this story is not gonna end well.
I mean, it's it's almost impossible to imagine how it can. I mean, I'm sure people
Right.
can, you know, pull theories of false directory. Well, first off, let me just say that of these three places that they show, it's interesting. Yeah, they show like a Japanese inspired people. So
Mm.
maybe it's the Hizuru. Is that what they were called?
Mm, yeah, I'm not sure actually. I had an idea as well, but
It could be like they're a the far like a poor or a farming community, but there's definitely like the Torige and the Jinja are very much Japanese
yeah, like
inspired.
the architecture is definitely Japanese inspired,
Hmm.
but the humans living there I don't think look very Japanese inspired
Oh, you don't
in
think
their
so?
design. It's not like Kiyomi or Mikasa,
You're right. They're not. That's a
right?
good point.
So that's what threw me off about that. So I guess
I think what was throwing me off was just the clothing.
oh
It
yeah,
because the clothing does look like. But then again, you look at London, what's supposed to be London, and it's what would be people who live in Africa,
right.
which is very interesting.
So I think both of those have kind of gotten their equivalent of their real world people kind of
Mm,
changed a bit. At least what it looks like to me, because they look like just Caucasians or whatever in that Japan like area.
yeah, you might be right.
So Hizuru culturally might not be as Japanese as we
What we
thought.
thought.
Although I think they do wear kimonos because I
Mm-hmm.
think Kiyomi was wearing a kimono in the Marley arc. Um,
Yeah.
man,
It,
I'm
I,
not.
it's kind of to me it's kind of hard to say with this Japanese looking group or the Japanese architecture, but uh, either way, I think it also shows, or I think it's my theory is that you have what we call Africa is Marley in their world, correct?
Yeah.
And so the people there are white. Well, it looks like here in London, the people there are black, and so
Hmm.
it's kind of like we've said before, the world has kind of done a flip, but the people who live in that general area are still the same. Which I guess, if we're talking about topography and you know how people adapt to their environment, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah,
They would
for
keep that.
sure.
One last thing I'll say about the Japanese imagery is that there's a scene where you see they're basically stomping on the village, and in the back you
Mm.
see the sun, and it's very reminiscent of the rising sun. It could be
Yes.
setting here, but it's. I mean, if I'm a Japanese person, I'm seeing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I understood that reference.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and whether it's sunset or sunrise, we don't really know because I mean, this
Yeah.
this takes place over several different time zones, so
Hmm.
uh it makes sense for it to be different times of day in different areas here. But damn.
I mean, obviously, it's just shocking to see all these people running off a cliff basically to escape.
Yeah, those pages. Oh my God.
So, oh my gosh, yeah, it's horrifying.
Mhm.
And then you have this scene with the mother just desperately trying to save her baby,
Yeah.
and then miraculously, or just something I did not expect, the people start holding up the baby for
Yeah.
for whatever reason, despite the fact that they're all going to die, whether by falling off the cliff or being squished. They
Mhm.
all there's the powerful scene I'm talking about. All these people are reaching up their hands towards the baby, not even being able to really touch it, but they're all lifting up
Yeah.
their hands. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know. To me, it's so powerful. And one way I read it is maybe they're trying to put their hope in this child, or another way I read it is that even in the depths of despair, the good in humanity still can come out.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. Like this is something. I mean, obviously, it's very supernatural, and no one would ever put it in a museum. But I feel like I would have the same emotional reaction to seeing an image like this, um, in any museum than I would like some other famous pieces of
Yeah.
art. Just of how like impactful and it's able to make you feel a certain way.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. This page, like basically the last page with that baby
Mm-hmm.
in it, just like the full page with one big image with the Titans in the background and everyone holding up their hands.
Hmm.
I agree. It's definitely art, and it does revoke a lot of emotion. And I agree with the things you said. And I think one other way that this could be interpreted is, I think, related to what the general says in his speech later in the
Yeah.
chapter,
Yeah.
where he basically says something along the lines of, it's the adults who have been the sinners and who have brought the world to where it is, but the
Hmm.
children are the innocent ones and they deserve a second chance, and something along those lines.
Hmm.
And so yeah, here's this child, and everyone supposedly maybe wishes for this child to be able to live a life,
Sure. I
you
I
know.
completely agree with that. And just real quick, that kind of goes into what I had said a few chapters ago about King Fritz and his plan, where the whole go to island parody and whatnot, run away. And I feel like
Mm.
that puts the sins of the parents onto the children, so they are not free, they're not able to live the life that they should be able to live. Um, so I think that could
Yeah.
be a possible theme, a constant theme that is brought up. I mean, you know, you look at Zeke and his relationship with his parents, and Aaron's relationship with his father. I mean, I think to varying degrees. I think it's there. But anyway, I totally agree
Yeah.
with what you say, and I think that's a good way to interpret it as well.
Right. Something I value a lot about these pages here, like
Uh huh.
these non-dialogue uh pages with like that only show just how brutal the slaughter of the Rumbling is. It's good, like, because one thing I talked about with some people on Discord is that the words, like the speech bubbles, like reading
Mhm.
Attack on Titan, makes it easy to relate to and kind of support Eren,
Hmm.
because there's I mean, obviously we follow him from the beginning of the story,
Mhm.
and even now, even the paths chapters and the flashback chapters have given us kind of reason to, like, maybe not necessarily be in full support of him, but at least understand where he's coming from and kind of make him out to be not completely a villain.
Mhm.
But this imagery kind of says the complete opposite. This imagery shows us just how awful the Rumbling is, how dreadful and just nightmarish it is. And it really, in my opinion at least, really makes me view Eren as a full out, all out villain,
Yeah.
which I
I
think he is.
yeah. I to be honest, I just think it's too complicated just to call him a villain.
It is complicated.
I don't know. I don't know why I'm so apprehensive of doing it. Um, I think by people calling Aaron villain, I think they can have a peace of mind. Be like, okay, I'm reading this, but I think he's a villain. It's okay. I don't necessarily. I don't think it's necessary to call Aaron a villain and have him do this. Maybe not saying you, but maybe some people are worried that if they don't say Aaron's a villain, then they'll think that Aaron is justified, and he's not. There is no justification for murdering thousands and thousands of people. But I think this whole situation is so convoluted and messy. Until we find out how it all ends, I really don't know if we can call him the the villain per se. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Antagonist, sure. Um, some people call it the protagonist. That's fine.
I think he is the protagonist, but he is the villain.
I, I don't know. I don't know. Like
Well,
what I mean, I'm not denying what's happening is evil. I'm not at all.
hmm.
And he is the enemy to humanity right now. Um, but I think the term villain is just too simple for what's actually going on.
Maybe.
I know you disagree with me, but that's fine.
I do, but I don't think I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I mean, I don't know. It is, as you said, it is complicated. But I watched Full Metal Jacket relatively recently for my first time.
Hmm.
And why am I bringing this up? First of all, have you seen it?
No, I have not.
Okay, I bring it up though because it revoked thoughts about Attack on Titan from me in three different ways, and I just wanted to mention quickly why. Especially one of these instances is very related to this, and it made me feel like possibly Isayama was inspired by certain parts of that film. I would definitely wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Hmm.
But basically, related to this is that there's a dialogue between two of the characters in that movie where I'm just gonna read it out. Character one, or character A, I guess. Character A says, "Well, at least they died for a good cause." And character B says, "What cause was that?" Character A says, "Freedom." Then character B replies, "Flush out your headgear, new guy. You think we waste gooks for freedom? This is a slaughter." And that made me think of The Rumbling. Obviously, that film deals with the Vietnam War, so it's a different situation. But it's just this thing where someone views something as freedom, when in reality, like, look at this, look at these people jumping off the cliff edge in terror. That's not freedom. Eren isn't giving the world, anyone in the world, really freedom. I'd argue maybe he's not even giving the Paradisians freedom at this point, just because of the like global scale of terror that he's striking onto the whole world. So it made me think of that. And just very briefly, there were two scenes pretty early on in the film where I think Isayama was inspired, possibly. One where there's like a training camp for like new soldiers, new recruits, and there's one guy who has a jelly donut like hidden, and the trainer commander guy like catches him with it, and it really resembled the Sasha potato scene with Keith. Obviously Isayama placed that scene kind of like from a more comedic angle
Mm-hmm.
than that scene is played in Full Metal Jacket,
Oh, okay.
but I still thought like I definitely think Isayama was inspired to some degree there. And there was also relatively early on in the film a guy with a rifle pointing it into his mouth, similar to how Reiner does in the Marley arc.
Hmm.
Which just the imagery of that resembled that. And I mean, obviously, it's not necessarily that Isayama
Yeah.
took inspiration from it, but I think I'm sure he must have watched this film
I
and at
feel like he
least
did.
in certain ways taken inspiration. Yeah, and it is a very well made movie.
Yeah, from what you said, it sounds like that there was definitely some inspiration, but
I thought it was interesting. It's interesting to see like for someone that I look up to as much as I do Hajime Isayama, like as a storyteller, it's fun to see kind of where he, possible places where he draws his inspiration from. So I thought that was fun. But yeah, especially that dialogue that I mentioned at the beginning of this
yeah.
about freedom not necessarily being freedom. It might be just in this situation slaughter.
My one counter to that is Aaron didn't ever promise the world's freedom. He promised freedom for him and his friends. So now, obviously, I don't agree with killing hundreds of people, thousands, millions of people.
Millions. Yeah.
I'll get there eventually. To gain that freedom, I don't agree with that. But Aaron never promised the world freedom. Now, who knows? Maybe at the end of the day, he's actually, psych, I was trying to go for world freedom. I just needed to kill a few people for that, which I don't know how we'd all feel about that. We'll see.
Yeah.
So no, you do bring a good point. I guess I am going to stand on the hill that I am not ready to call him a villain. Just the same as I wouldn't call Zeke a villain. I never really called Zeke a villain. I call him the antagonist. Attack on Titan never has a villain, and to suddenly say, oh, Aaron's the villain is not correct in for this series. I feel like that becomes, not to say it can't be typical shonen, but it becomes too typical shonen. It becomes too Naruto, like, oh, it was a villain the whole time. You
Well,
know,
I think he becomes a villain in a non-traditional sense, because just looking at his actions, just looking literally at what he does, for like 99% of the world, more probably than that, he is the big bad right now. There's like no real question about that.
yeah, no, I mean he is the threat to humanity,
Yeah,
but I don't think the threat to humanity needs to be
I
the
think that
villain per
makes him a
se.
villain. That alone makes him a
Mm.
villain. He's killing millions of
I'll say
innocent
antagonist.
people.
I think that makes him the antagonist.
No, but
I'll
from
say
the
that.
story's perspective, he's the protagonist. I think.
I think the resistance is the protagonist right now.
Okay, right now, maybe okay. So, but the story as a whole, I think he is the protagonist, and I think
I think so.
whatever.
The story is. I
I don't
mean,
know how
I guess
much
we're
this
just
matters.
arguing. Yeah, we're just arguing semantics. But
Yeah.
I just the reason why I feel like I need to argue myself because I know I'm just gonna people are gonna disagree with me. So
Okay, okay.
I
Feel free to.
so, but no, I'll stop there. But I'm sure I'll get angry people. But that's okay.
It's okay. Angry people will be angry.
You know, just sometimes how it is. And if you are angry at me, I that's totally fine. Just know I don't support genocide or what Aaron is doing whatsoever. Just understand
Yes.
that. Um,
Yeah, I think we all do.
good
Hmm.
because yeah. Anyway, what I wanted to say after bringing up this powerful image was kind of a fleeting, not a fleeting thought, but a thought I had after reading this that I don't think is necessarily true, but I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Uh-huh.
So the baby's crying, and then it goes to supposedly a different baby, held by an Eldian mother,
Yes.
or maybe a Marleyan mother. I can't tell if she's Eldian or Marleyan,
Uh, oh yeah, I
but
guess. I
we
mean,
don't really
I'm
know that.
just I'm just assuming everyone on the train except for the driver guy are Eldians, but
I think the driver brought his family, so this could technically be his family. I don't know,
yeah, there
but
definitely could be others. Yeah, yeah. But
but
yeah,
anyway,
regardless.
regardless of that, she was on the train.
Mm.
I wonder if this is one thought I had is what if this is before, like if they fail to stop Aaron, this is what they believe will happen, and this is kind of like an imagination or a thought, like if we don't stop him here, he's going to go and destroy the whole world and kill people like that. And maybe that's the connection between the baby, is that this is just symbolic. Now I'm not saying
Mm.
that's for sure. I'm just saying that as a possibility because there's really no evidence besides how they cut to the baby on the train here, or off
Right.
the train, but you know what I mean.
Oh.
I don't know. That was just something I thought, like, what if all this rumbling stuff hasn't, or this far into the rumbling hasn't happened yet? Because it, how spread out are the Titans? I thought they weren't this spread out. Like, surely they couldn't destroy all of this in the amount of time that's passed, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
But I
I
mean, Isayama's the one telling the story, so if this is happening at the same time as them trying to bomb Aaron, then hey, that's what he says.
right. Yeah, I had a similar. I basically had that thought too, and but then I started thinking like, yeah, these we've already kind of seen these titans do things we didn't expect them to, like swimming, and they have been shown to move faster than we expected a titan that
Yeah.
large to
Mm-hmm.
move. So I think I'm still probably buying it, and I'm probably trying to not think too much into it, like logically, at least about the amount of the titans,
Right.
because spreading them that far out, I don't think would make them such big of a threat, or I don't think they would be able to cause that much destruction.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they are that spread thin because they are rumbling the world. So, but logically that doesn't make too much sense considering how small Parody is. So I don't know. I think it's something that we shouldn't think too much into, although I don't like to say that really, because I like to think too much into this.
I understand where you're coming from, and it was just a thought I had
Mm.
because of, wait, is this happening simultaneously, or is this just what will happen once, um, if they fail? And I tried to see if this mother is the same one who tosses the baby before she falls,
Oh, I don't think so.
And she obviously doesn't have a hood on like she does in, or not a hood, like a handkerchief thing. But she could have removed that, and she is wearing some similar clothing, except not the jacket. I believe that they're two separate people, and I believe that this is happening simultaneously. But I
Hmm.
think it would be interesting if that was just a what is to come if they fail, rather than what is
Huh.
actually happening. But
Man,
I'm just putting that out there,
right. Yeah, that is interesting.
Not saying that's for sure.
Of course. Yeah, I definitely didn't think about that. But yeah, I guess it could be interesting. I do kind of hope it's not the case though, because the way these pages come, it very much feels like it's happening in the present.
Hmm.
And
And
yeah,
well, you're right. And we have Historia in labor, which kind of indicates that it's supposed to all be happening around that time,
right.
and it gives credence to this being the climax. So anyway, that was just a thought I had and wanted to put that out there.
Of course, of
But
course.
but again, to clarify, because I know people will take it the wrong way, I do think this is happening at the same. This is all simultaneous. I'm just putting that out there.
Cool, cool. I didn't have that thought about that family. I had one other thought about that family though, is that they look like they could totally be Armin's relatives.
Oh, really?
I think, yeah, they got the same eyebrows, the similar eyes. Some of them have like this uppy nose like Armin does. Same hair color. I mean, it probably doesn't mean anything, but I think
Maybe.
they totally resemble Armin, all of them. uh,
Maybe Armin had a second wife somewhere. I don't know, or a first wife.
it's,
I don't know.
it's Armin's secret wife.
I had a thought, but then I think I lost it. So never mind. Sorry.
Oh, oh, it's all right. The general's speech that comes here, um, basically the first words in the chapter is the general having a speech to the people in the airships and the people in the fortress. Or wait, not no no no. The speech doesn't come immediately. There's a little bit of dialogue before that, but anyway, the
Yeah,
speech comes up, and
they're stuck there on Atlas or on Saltus, whatever.
yeah, exactly, Salta.
Salta.
And yeah, it's the last standing resistance on Earth, according to this general, which is a very scary thought. But his speech that he has like onto these people here. The first time I read the chapter, I thought it felt very cheesy, and maybe I think maybe it still is. However, I think on like upon rereading it, I kind of viewed it. I mean, yeah, still a bit cheesy, but I appreciated it in a different way when I reread it, and I gave it some more thought, I guess. That's basically throughout this arc, this story arc, we had Gabby as an Eldian from outside the walls come into the walls and eventually, come to the conclusion that the Eldians on Paradis are just the same as everyone else in the world.
Hmm.
Uh, and after that, we had Magath admitting eventually to also viewing these people as humans, which was a bigger thing. I mean, Gabby's thing was big in its own right, but then we had Magath as a non-Eldian, make those kinds of statements. That was even bigger. And then now we have another Marleyan military fellow saying, somewhat similar things in some ways about, we should learn to live, without hatred for one another
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And this guy presumably hasn't ever even, or at least in any meaningful way, interacted with an Eldian. This guy comes from a complete outside perspective,
Sure.
whereas Magath, obviously, he worked with Eldians almost all his life. And I think so. So in that way, it's an even bigger, even more crucial um, kind of growth for a person in this world, and and that's hopeful. That's very hopeful for the end. Obviously, I don't know if we're looking at a very hopeful ending, but in amidst all this darkness, I think this speech sheds at least a little bit of light on the story.
I agree, and I mean I do think to an extent this has become cheesy, but it's not cringe cheesiness, you know. It's not like
Yeah.
Sonic saying "gotta go fast" kind of cheesy cringe
Yeah.
stuff. You know, this is, I mean, this is, I equate this to people looking back on their lives, you know, one on death and having some regrets, but also looking back on what they could have done differently.
Mm,
And I think that's what he's doing right here. Now, obviously, he's not giving up per se, but you know, I think he's realizing the mistakes that they've made as humanity,
for
as
sure.
mankind.
Hmm.
He's reflecting on that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this volume and same with last volume, there's been a lot of progression in forgiving and understanding. You brought
Absolutely.
up Magath and Gabby.
Mm,
There's also Reiner asking for forgiveness, Jean and Coney eventually forgiving and in return asking for forgiveness as well.
yeah.
There's just much more understanding going on
For sure.
than there ever has been in the manga.
Absolutely. This arc as a whole has really been a lot about that.
Right, and I do think that's for a reason.
Mm,
Um, whether it be just a message that he wanted to portray, or it could be this is what Aaron is seeking. I know you're like, oh, how dare you bring up Aaron and say his motives are different. I'm just saying that there's a potential that Aaron's motives here isn't necessarily to wipe out the whole planet, but or maybe it is, but maybe the end goal is actually just to get people to reach this understanding.
mm,
Not to say that this is okay and he should be let go for what he did. I don't. I really struggle to find an ending where he doesn't die. But
right.
I do think if the end product, uh, well, I got to be careful how I say this.
Oh,
If there is more understanding between the people of the world and less hatred towards the Eldians and frankly just other people in general, I think that is definitely a plus if they're able to stop Aaron. Again, that doesn't justify what he's doing. It doesn't give him any sort of credence, but it could be a reason why he's doing that.
right.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't call me like a Nazi or something like that, please.
No, 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 no. I think it's clear that you aren't. So
Good.
don't worry about that. I enjoyed the little focus here on Karina, Reiner's mom, and with her, like even her, like she has, I think
Yeah.
for a long time, ever since the big like first half of the Marley arc, she has been viewed as one of the most awful characters. Awful in the sense of like just bad as a person, not awfully written or anything, but just a bad person
I mean, yeah.
because of what
I
she did
mean,
to Reiner,
yeah.
based on how she treated him when he was a kid and oh well throughout his life, I guess. And getting this focus on her, I thought, and like to see her like really regret everything she's done, like to her son. I don't know, that moved me a bit, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. Somehow I hadn't necessarily expected it too much. I just
Mm-hmm.
kind of thought she would be stubborn until the end or something along those lines. I mean, for a time I believed them to be dead, like she and these people here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was happy to see that. I was really happy to see a character as like drawn in such a bad light as hers as her character to actually show this level of humanity and emotion and regret.
I completely agree. I think it's really nice to see that. I'm glad we got that moment for her,
Mm,
and probably and I'm sure um, Mr. Lionheart is feeling the same way.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, so I think that having them be here for this moment was important for that message of understanding, repenting, um, and whatnot.
absolutely. Yeah, I really really enjoyed this little bit. And like almost even more so in hindsight, like in like upon like rereading it. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like it was good the first time, but it was just
It just hits differently.
affected me even more the second time. Yeah.
I get you totally.
Really, really good.
I remember what I was gonna say, by the way,
Oh yeah.
um, and that was the moment where they're holding up the baby. Um, I think that right there and how this chapter ends is basically, the climax to where this is the final stand per se, and everything that happens in the next 4 or 5 chapters or however many chapters there are left will occur in a very short amount of time. So while there probably will be a little more deaths that happen to those poor people at the cliffside, um, it I don't think they're going to be all wiped out if they stop Eren and stop the Colossal Titan somehow.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of just like the breaking point, the final like climax moments, and that's the maximum bloodshed, if you will.
Yeah,
Um,
for
so
sure.
everything now is just going to happen a lot quicker. Um,
Uh-huh.
or well, quicker. When I say quicker, I mean like actually I mean the opposite. The
Oh.
time will slow down, if you know what I mean. Like a minute
Hmm.
will be potentially a whole chapter, and then I'm sure we'll have some paths garbage where not even a
Mhm.
second passes.
Right,
But
right. Yeah, and yeah, and about that baby, like based on the amount of attention it got in this chapter,
hmm
I think it's almost equally likely now that that baby is the baby in the final panel.
I
Um,
I totally
a-
agree. You stole
as
my thunder.
Historias. Whoops.
It's okay.
But it's like now we have two babies, and maybe I mean one isn't born yet, or it's about to be, but like
hmm
now we have two babies that have some kind of significance to the manga,
Yeah.
and I think it could go really either way for which one will be in the final panel.
Right. I do think that Historia Baby is more likely. However, this one is just as likely, and I could see some
Mm.
pretty, or I can imagine some pretty cool moments that they could, or that Isayama could draw for the final few panels or so. So that
Yeah,
yeah, I would be happy with either.
for sure.
Anyway, thank you for
Yeah.
listening to my thought.
Thank you. And Beast Titan. I have an interesting, or well, I'm sure it's maybe not that special, but my thought when I saw this bit, well, first of all, I was like, "What? Zeke's Beast Titan is just hanging there on the wire."
Yeah,
That first of all was surprising. Oh, I mean, not super surprising because we kind of expected Zeke to be there in some
I,
way.
I just didn't
Uh,
expect the Beast Titan itself to be there. I expect maybe
right.
I Zeke just to be in like a capsule or something, like a
Yeah,
flesh pocket.
exactly.
But
Right, right.
this is way more disturbing and useful for Aaron. So
For
yeah,
sure.
it just makes the story more interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to assume, I think everyone pretty much assumes here that Aaron is controlling the Beast Titan here.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah.
Because there isn't really any other like logical option here, I think.
hmm
However, one thing that I think has to be the case is that the stones that the Beast Titan tosses are like Warhammer stones. Like Aaron kind of
Mm,
generated those using the Warhammer powers because where else would he have gotten those stones from?
that's a good point.
So I think that's a really interesting way to like combine these Titan powers in cool ways.
I wonder if it's like like Warhammer or like hardening of some sort. Yeah, and then he just crushes it and throws it.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
very very cool. And I was also thinking like so I guess Zeke is presumably residing in the nape of his Beast Titan, and and then I started thinking about Aaron's whereabouts. Could he also be inside of the Beast Titan's body?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Maybe, because we were I
Maybe.
think a couple chapters ago we were talking about like where actually is Aaron,
Mm-hmm.
because he has to be inside of something, but most of this his Titan right now is only bones, right? So this would be something fleshy for him to potentially reside within.
Yeah.
But obviously it's not super clear.
No, I think it is separate. There's got to be some sort of area where he's keeping his head, because I'm almost at the point where maybe his head is still separate from his body and somehow he's alive that way, which for anybody who's hoping that Aaron is somehow alive after this. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna
Mm.
be and have his body anymore. I think Aaron is just a head at this point, but I mean I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it definitely seems like that.
And I guess you
is
could
the
fit
case.
ahead and Zeke into the into the Beast Titan. But personally,
Yeah.
I think he is keeping it elsewhere, and it might just be in the fleshy area of his actual Titan head. Um,
Right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. We did talk about that.
so anyway,
True. Yeah. And something funny I thought it was assuming pretty safely, but assuming it is Aaron controlling the Beast Titan here. I bet Zeke is really regretting having played like catch and ball with Aaron back in
oh
Marley.
god.
He
Well,
taught Aaron well to throw.
yeah, I mean, no catching here, just hit the
just
target,
throwing, just
just
throwing.
throwing.
And then we got the plane arriving. The heroes are here.
Look in the horizon. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's oh no, it's a plane.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, and actually, right before that, I think there's this like on top of one of the pages. There's that family with a baby again. I thought that the ones that I thought looked like Armin, and I think it's almost even more obvious in that panel that or not obvious. I shouldn't say that. Use that word, but it looks a lot like, especially like at least some of them look a lot like Armin,
Yeah, I
like
mean, I
the
could.
little kid there.
Yeah, the little kid next to the baby. I could see it,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I think it's totally Armin. uh, but yes, the Alliance, the heroes, the flying boat. Something I thought was funny, like when they dodge. Well, first of all, we got the little spider sense tingling in the Ackerman people there, for like warning of the incoming throw. Uh, and when Onyankopon maneuvers the plane to the side, I love that like on the page after that there's this little panel where everyone's just like being thrown like tossed around inside of the plane, especially Reiner. It looks like Reiner was probably the one least prepared for that plane to just suddenly just turn like that because Reiner's just flying from one end of the plane to the other.
Oh,
In that
I
panel, it's
never
so
noticed that.
funny.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I,
I
I,
feel
I
so
totally
sorry.
missed that.
I feel so sorry for Reiner.
He's like, whoa!
every time, every time Reiner's like just bad luck.
Poor guy. Feels bad. I thought it was
Yeah.
interesting that I think last month we were talking about how they would land at Fort Salta. I mean, I don't know if
Mm.
I I think I thought that. I think I thought that. Yeah. But but in fact, they're not even landing there. They're gonna land on Aaron, which I think is much cooler. Um,
Absolutely. I mean, it is the general location of Fort Salta. I don't know if I don't know what I actually envisioned specifically but
mm. um,
yeah.
but what's also interesting is that Yonkopon basically crashes here. Well, at least he does an emergency landing. I hope he's
Right.
all right. Like, but
Definitely.
this may be why Annie and Falco have to come in because they have to um, save the crew at one point.
Save
Um,
on Yank. I think only Onyankopon is the only one left in the
no,
plane.
I didn't mean crew. I meant well, I didn't mean Oyako. I meant the crew as in
Oh.
Armin and company.
Ah ah
Like
ah.
somehow
I
like
see.
pick them up after they're done. Okay, guys, get on. Um,
Yeah. I just hope it doesn't come off as too convenient.
yeah, I mean,
If that is the case.
well, that's here's the thing. I guarantee you, people are like, oh man, that's so convenient. Like, I mean, they're already flying to begin with, and people were complaining about that. I'm pretty sure people are gonna
Uh-huh.
be complaining about whenever Annie gets here.
But
Uh,
the fun thing about that though, about the Flying Titan possibility.
uh-huh.
I mean, first of all, we don't even know if it's actually going to happen yet, but it does seem like it will. But what I'm the most curious about right now is probably, is it going to be Falco's Titan or Annie's Titan that's going to gain the ability of flight? Probably Falco's, but at the same time, I'm kind of seeing Annie's as a possibility as well.
Or will they both fly?
Yeah, why not both? True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but the reason why I brought Oyakopon was because I was listening to You Hear Big Girls, and I believe they put like the question out or something, you
Mm.
know, will Oyakopon crash or something like that, or I don't know if I'm even pronouncing it right.
Oh
Oyakopon,
yeah.
yeah, there we go. And so to me, I didn't even think it was really a possibility until they put that question out there, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. And lo and behold,
Yeah.
like he's basically doing an emergency landing. So that's pretty good foresight on their part.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that now that you mention it. Yeah, interesting.
So
Oh
anyway,
boy.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, Onyankopon deserves to survive this.
I really hope he does.
He's such a good boy. It's
Yeah,
like he's like one of the most pure characters in the story at this
yeah,
point, and he really deserves a happy ending, or at least, well, I guess as happy as it
as can
can be.
be. Yeah.
They all jump out of the plane. I just think that this is such a cool page when we just see everyone just jumping out, free falling down.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
It's like no fear, like no parachutes. We doing this. We make do with ODM gear.
So you know what? Like, I had no idea what they were gonna do. Like, how they were gonna not just crash land or like splat.
Oh.
Besides, the Titans being able to transform. So I was like, I had no idea, and then Reiner shields them. I was like, yes, I was hoping for that. Let's go.
Yes,
And I love, Pete carrying the bombs and she transforms. Oh my gosh,
for sure.
there's so much to have that happens here. I just love it. And,
I
and
know.
but then obviously they use their ODM gear. Is that what it's called?
Mm.
Or
Or vertical maneuvering gear. It's had a couple different names.
but ODM gear was correct, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so they use the ODM gear to attach to one of his, spiny bony thingies. And I was like, duh. Why didn't I think of that? Of course they would use that. Ah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it would be
That's
kind of lame for the finale of Attack on Titan if they didn't use it in some way.
right. Exactly, exactly. And it brought me back to like the moment I saw them just free falling like from that high a distance. It brought me back to the Return to Shiganshin arc when Bertolt comes out of the barrel in the sky, and that's
Oh,
also from a really high distance. And he
yeah.
also obviously smooths that out with his ODM gear. So yeah, it made me think of that.
Excellent point.
And then we got Reiner, my boy.
Woo!
He's gonna be a hero.
I need a hero. Sorry.
I'm so excited. Like this was definitely a hype ending. Got Reiner just tackling the Beast Titan like that,
I loved it.
and oh man, and then everyone swooping down with their ODM gear and Peak coming with the bombs and so badass. Everyone's just so badass right here.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is a great moment and a great way to end this volume.
Uh huh.
One thing before we get to Armin's big question, and
Yes.
the really cool moment there. Are we able to see Levi's hand? Could we confirm if his hand was healed or not?
Ooh, hadn't thought about this chapter actually. Let's
I
see.
didn't until just now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously there weren't a lot of Levi panels, but let's check real quick if
I
there's
mean,
anything.
my scrolling just now, I really couldn't see anything. At least not a good shot.
Yeah, I don't think there is any. There's a lot of motion, so it's hard to like.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of shots from a distance, so it's hard to tell. A lot of people I talked to. Oh yeah, we haven't talked about this on the podcast. This is something I realized, or I got a comment on the last chapters, or we got a
Oh
comment
yeah,
on the last chapters.
we didn't bring it up in the last chapter. I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
exactly. Yeah, someone. I'm sorry, I don't have your name in my head right now, but someone commented on the most recent, like the previous episode we did, about Levi in the previous chapter in one of the shots after they get out of the Paths talk with Aaron. Levi's fingers are back, and so I brought that up with a lot of people on Discord. By the way, again, I can't stress this enough. We have an open Discord server. You can join. It's link in the description. You can talk to us and other Attack on Titan fans that have joined. And it's we have a really nice community, I think, building up there. But anyway, I talked to it. I talked about it with some people in our Discord server and also some other Attack on Titan Discord servers that I'm on. And it seemed like most people thought it was an oversight on Isayama's part. Most people thought it was like just didn't mean anything, and some people were, and I think I'm kind of in the same boat as them. Basically, that it would be kind of lame if that was the case. Like, what would like it would basically like erase all of the consequences of that whole endeavor that Levi went through.
Yeah.
And he already did prove that he
could do it
You
without
know,
it.
yeah, exactly, precisely. So I'm also probably in the camp right now that it's probably an oversight because he's just so used to drawing hands the way they are, and that in that one panel he accidentally gave Levi his fingers back. Um,
I'm right there with you. I think it is an oversight. It'd be fascinating to see if there was reasoning behind it, but
mm,
I do think it was just a simple error. But hey, if I'm wrong, sure.
yeah, and there were absolutely I thought it was possible to find reasons to believe that it was true because like when they were in the paths around, Levi was kind of sitting with his hands in the sand,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that sand has kind of the power to regenerate people's bodies
Mm-hmm.
since we saw that it happened to Zeke and like stuff like that. So like I feel like there is some kind of
Yeah.
reason to believe it, but I think if since it wasn't brought up at all in this chapter, I think it's pretty safe to assume it was an oversight.
I mean, I guess they could mention it um, when they're talking to Aaron at one point again, because I think they'll talk to Aaron again, and he's like, "Why did you let me get healed?" Dun dun dun. Um, but
Yeah.
so now I'm unsure. I I still think it was a mistake, but I am there's like 40%, maybe 30% of me is kind of like, well, what if he did mean that? I guess you can never say for sure, but I do agree with you that is most likely a
Mm,
mistake.
right. And well, so actually on the last page, or the last, well, it's 2 pages, but the last panel there,
Mm-hmm.
we see Levi up in the distance on the right upper corner. And obviously it's very far away. We can't actually see his hands, let alone his fingers, but the sword in his injured hand, he's holding it the way he would hold that sword if he was using it with only his other 2 fingers.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. Like I was looking at it, it was like, I mean, that's a convenient way to like kind of hide the fact that you're not drawing his fingers, but okay. But I guess you can
Right. No.
see more of the hilt on the
Yeah. No.
bottom.
Because
So
he's got that, because he's holding that sword upside down, basically, like which he would have to do if he's only using his ring and pinky finger.
is he holding it upside down?
Yeah. He like I don't that sword wouldn't be in that angle if he was holding it properly, like. Or okay, I guess it could be seen. Okay, sorry. I guess it could be seen that way. But to me, it looks like it's angled backward. That's at
Mm.
least the way I initially read
Oh,
that
oh,
one.
I can see the backwards angle now. Oh.
But I actually, yeah, that was the only way I
Well,
saw it
now I'm
at first. But then
confused because I see it both
yeah,
ways.
I can see it both ways now too.
I'm sorry.
But
uh, mm, you know what? I'm gonna agree with you and say it is backwards because I think the blade looks like it's behind his sleeve there,
yes, exactly.
potentially.
I think yeah, no, I think actually that's a good point. I think that's totally the case. So
Anyway, so thank you YouTube commenter. I'm sorry we don't have your name, but thank you for bringing that up. We will see how it goes.
yeah, like whether or not it was like actually true, I very much enjoyed that theory for sure.
Yeah.
So about Armin's final words in this chapter here.
Yeah, I think this is a question that we've been asking for a while. I think is Aaron truly free at this point? He's kind of under the control of not. I mean, you could argue, oh, he's under control of Ymir or the centipede thing. I mean, but that's a little far fetched at
Mm.
this point. I mean, I still think it's possible, but we don't have any proof of that. But
Yeah, I don't
I
think
think
so.
I think to a greater extent, he is a prisoner of what he believes is destiny or the future or what he believes has to happen in order to obtain freedom. Um, and
Mm.
and to an extent, like he's a prisoner to the Titan curse. I'd say like he feels like he has to take on the I don't know the crimes of his people to um, uh, make amends or something along those lines.
Yeah.
To that extent, I agree with Armin, or I think this is an important question to ask
Oh yeah.
Aaron, who is obsessed with freedom, and who is at this point blindly, raging on and trying to convince himself that he is doing this for freedom, or he is free, when in truth he's not.
Absolutely. And I think that was kind of made obvious, like pretty much in the paths chapters, where it sort of became clear that Aaron somehow has always, like ever from the beginning, he's been not controlled, but he's been influenced by Ymir, maybe to a degree,
Mm-hmm.
but by his future self as well.
Yeah, I mean that's possible.
And so in that regard, even if it's himself, it's not the same self as his present self. You know, he's been influenced by himself from the future, and I don't think that makes him free.
Mm. Yeah.
Because ever since he was a kid, he's been more or less led in this direction into doing the things that he's doing right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It feels like that at least.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, some of the things that Aaron kind of forced Grisha to do through paths
Right. Mm-hmm.
lends to that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's accurate to say he has never been free, but he's always wanted that freedom. But when he started seeing the vision, when he kissed Historia's hand, that was
Yeah.
obviously that's the moment where he became a slave to um, the future,
Mm.
or the only way that this can work according to the future self. So I do agree with you on that.
That's when it became clear to him what had to be done.
Now again,
Stuff
I,
like
I
that.
do wonder if there's some sort of shenanigans going on with like I said, Ymir or the centipede thing, but at this point it's too early to it's too early to tell.
It is, yeah, it's hard to say. But this question by Armin here, like questioning the freedom of Aaron here, it also reminded me of that piece of dialogue from Full Metal Jacket that I brought up before, where like you might think it's freedom, but it's probably actually not.
Mm-hmm.
It's something else, and it's resulting in slaughter, both in Full Metal Jacket and in this story here.
Yeah, I mean to a different extent. I mean those people were
Oh
dying.
yeah, absolutely.
Aaron's the one that's killing, so
True,
it's
true,
a little
but
different.
it is absolutely different. But I still thought it was an interesting kind of similarity there.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Like we said, it's definitely. I think he definitely takes some inspiration from various forms of media, including Western outlets.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, probably like a lot of different war movies,
Mm-hmm.
or anti-war movies. Attack on Titan is an anti-war story,
Yeah,
and so is Full Metal Jacket, and
yeah.
it shows the how awful it is.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the Robin Williams character to come out and just say "Good morning, Marley" or something like that. But maybe,
Yeah.
maybe that's in the next volume. I really like after he asks what about you is free, and he says you can
Mm,
answer me once we drag you out of there. Uh, that
yeah.
is his confirmation that he's not killing him yet.
True. Oh
He
yeah.
is dragging him out to get answers. I like that. I do think Aaron will die eventually, but I as someone who wants to know more about Aaron's thought process and thinks Aaron's not thinking clearly in a lot of ways and could potentially be controlled by something. This
Mm,
is something I want to hear, and this is something I want to see is them bring him out. And now it may not happen, and not obviously you know this, but not every time someone says something it happens exactly the same way. But I do think
hmm.
that's their goal and could potentially happen. They're
Yeah.
set up for success, and at this point, I mean, I'm sure it'll be harder than just slicing up a neck and pulling him out, but we'll see.
Right. No, but that is interesting, and I guess this kind of leads into predictions ish, which I guess we could transition into. So I was thinking, now that they're the position they're in right now, we have the armored titan basically gotten the beast titan pinned down,
Hmm.
and if I'm going to assume that the beast titan here is, you know, has the same capabilities and the same battle skills as he normally does, because I guess that's the best assumption I can go on. Even though like potentially he's controlled by someone else, right? But yeah, but anyway, just
Hmm.
assuming he is equally good at combat in the same kind of ways as he normally is. I do think that Reiner has him beat here because I think the Beast Titan relies, like in combat, the Beast Titan relies on long distance combat, like
That's a good
throwing
point.
rocks and stuff, and that's where he excels. That's why he's hard to beat, because it's hard to get close to him because he's gonna destroy you before you have the time to get close to him. But now that Reiner is already like right on top of him, I don't think the Beast Titan has that much of a chance of beating the Armored Titan. I think the Armored Titan is probably stronger, like physically, uh, stronger than the Beast Titan, and I think he will be able to hold him down and defeat him without too much problem, probably. Because I just can't imagine. I just don't know what the Beast Titan would be able to do
Yeah,
in the situation that it is in right now.
I 100% agree with you when if it's Beast Titan versus Armor Titan, Zeke versus Reiner in normal circumstance, I totally agree with you that when Reiner has him pinned like that, it's done. Game over. GG.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he ever has gotten that. Like, I don't think he's ever had the chance to get that close
Yeah,
before.
potentially not. I mean, Zeke has beaten up Reiner before when he was younger,
Right.
but
Uh huh.
we don't know how it went down. However, this next chapter, I'm predicting this next chapter will be a fight, a lot more action. I mean, just as much action as we got in this chapter. And maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment that, but I think that there will be action, and the reason why I say that is because the Beast Titan formed in a very peculiar way, and I
Yeah.
think if it can form that way, maybe it can deconform or deconstruct, and kind of like become like a gooey type thing and get out of Reiner's hold and then appear somewhere else, like in another string area,
Oh,
and
like
then
elsewhere on the wire, kind
yeah,
of.
yeah.
Oh,
Now
dude.
maybe that's too
Yeah.
far fetched, but
I don't know. I don't know.
with
That's
how with
interesting.
how like liquidy the Titan's body kind of looked, I don't know how long it took to form, but maybe it's slow, so it wouldn't matter. But
I
maybe it's
mean, I
maybe it's quick.
I kind of imagine it was there the whole time. Like as Aaron was walking,
Oh, we just couldn't see it.
we were
That's
just
fair.
too far away to see it.
But if you do look at it, like it does like form. Like it's not completely formed. Like if you go back,
I actually yeah, that is something I thought of. Like his head didn't look like it was really a full head in one of the shots, I think.
yeah, no, it was like it looked like it was forming, and
Oh yeah,
you could see it kind of the head kind of growing, and the feet kind
that's
of has those
right.
root things. So I
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the string is attached to like where his head would kind of appear,
mhm
and then a couple panels later, it's attached to his nape, like
mhm
his neck.
correct.
You're right. Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. Ooh,
So it all depends on how easily that is able to, form and whatnot. But if it
you're
is
right.
quick, then Zeke or the Beast Titan could technically get out of that hold, and that could create for a more interesting fight.
Yeah. And also, isn't the Beast Titan wider than usual? Like whiter than usual?
Oh, I thought you said wider. I was like, I mean,
Yeah,
he could be
yeah.
thick. Uh, I think
he's already he's
mm,
already thick.
is he
No, but
wider? I don't
like
know.
he looks
It's really hard to tell with black and white, my friend.
because
But
yeah, I know it is, but I feel like usually he's drawn with more dark shades, especially like on the shoulders and like the legs.
yeah, yeah,
And
potentially.
this one looks brighter than he normally. I I just kind of noticed like throughout this chapter he looks very bright
Hmm.
for being the Beast Titan. Could it be like, man? Could it be like some kind of Warhammer Titan creation?
I mean, that'd be interesting.
I don't know.
Well, and that gives me an idea where what if there's some sort of mingling of the two powers that occurs with this Titan, like it's the Beast Titan and the Warhammer powers, and somehow Zeke is able to use Warhammer power against Reiner in a fight, which would be
Mm.
cool, and Reiner still takes him down in the end. I mean, come on, wouldn't that be cool? I mean, with help of Peak, uh, and not
Mm.
And I mentioned peak, but I'll bring it up now. Let's not
Uh huh.
forget the bombs because she obviously has those, and she's
Yes.
gonna use them somewhere, whether it be on Zeke, on wherever the crystal is, or on the head. So it's that's up in the air. We have to factor that in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna be one of those things.
I'm excited for next chapter, and I think that we'll see those bombs used next chapter. It depends on how long the fight is.
If the next chapter picks up where this chapter left off,
Hmm.
then yeah, I can definitely see it being used next chapter. But I could also see the next chapter, unlike previous month, I could see next month actually dealing with Historia
Hmm.
in greater detail, especially since we got the little peek at her this chapter. I could see that being a focus, like a primary focus of next month's chapter. And I'd love to see it. As everyone who's been listening to this podcast knows, I really want, focus on Historia's mindset on everything, and her time during the time skip. Like,
Hmm.
I want to know all about that. And I think that after this chapter's little teaser, I think it's possible that we'll get her next chapter, like actually get her next chapter.
Hmm. I would love to see Historia in greater detail, like you said. I really would love it. I don't think it's gonna happen, and
Ah.
maybe because I said that, maybe it won't. Uh, but I don't think it would happen because it felt like this was seeing her in labor, giving birth. It felt like she was that this was a tease, and that we wouldn't
Yeah.
see the actual baby or her, holding the baby or whatever, and hear more from her until till even closer to the end, like a
Ooh.
2 or 3 chapters from now.
So like possibly like the second to last or the very last chapter or
Yeah,
something like that.
maybe. And,
Uh huh.
that's cutting it close. And would that be enough to give her, some time to speak? But I think it would be. Um,
mm.
and just the way he teased it just seems that it wouldn't be just a tease one chapter and then go to it immediately the next chapter. You know what I mean?
Right. I absolutely could see that being the case as well. I guess so. Okay, so I think Isayama made a statement that there's 1 to 2% left of the story at this point,
Correct. Yeah.
which basically means there's one more volume.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't really any other way to interpret that.
Hmm.
One volume, like, a volume always has more or less the same amount of pages. Most of them are divided into 4 chapters. Only 2 of them aren't.
So are you thinking that just for clarity, you said
Mm.
it's usually always the same amount of pages. So do you think that this final volume won't have like more pages potentially?
Yes, I don't think so necessarily
Okay.
because, well, all I or the most like similar thing I have to compare it to
Hmm.
is the Full Metal Alchemist manga, which was also not every time, but also a lot of the time each volume was 4 chapters. So it was very similar to Attack on Titan in that regard in how
Hmm.
it came out. Um, but with the Full Metal Alchemist manga, the second to last volume was divided into I think 3 chapters.
Oh.
Each of them obviously then being slightly longer than the chapters
Oh.
before.
Okay.
So the volume was just as thick as the previous ones, but it had 3 chapters instead, so they were slightly longer.
Gotcha.
And then the very last volume, absolute last volume of Full Metal Alchemist was only 2 chapters, so they were
Oh
basically
wow.
two double length chapters.
Holy cow.
So I'm just saying, I don't think the final volume is going to be necessarily longer, or at least not by any significant
Hmm.
degree. I don't think. But
Yeah.
it might potentially, obviously, it absolutely could be just for regular length chapters. Totally could be. But I'm just saying that possibility is there that it might be divided into fewer chapters that are a bit longer.
Well, thanks for
Possibly.
putting that into perspective because I wasn't sure that oh, what if he does like a really long chapter,
Mm.
a really long fourth chapter that is more than 47 or so pages. So but knowing that that doesn't seem very likely.
Right. And so if it's 4 chapters, the final volume, it's gonna end in March. But I don't know if he would do it like, let's say 3 chapters for example, it would end in February, but it would be 3 longer chapters. Because I think, obviously I could be totally wrong, but I think that manga volumes tend to be more or less the same amount of pages,
Yeah,
pretty
that's
much
fair.
always.
To keep consistent, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like all of the manga volumes I have of like all different manga series that I own, they're all roughly the same size, or like they have about, they're roughly equally thick.
Yeah,
It seems like it's some kind of standard for manga, kind of in
that's
general.
that's fair.
So with that in mind, I think the final volume is going to be, more or less equally thick as the previous volumes, but the amount of chapters is uncertain.
You bring up a good point about if there are 4 chapters that end in March.
Mm.
I wonder if they're going to be shooting for and I think we've said this before, shooting for a
Mm.
Full Metal Alchemist type Brotherhood type thing where they end the manga and the anime at the same time.
Ah.
So I wonder if they're just thinking, is there a projected date for when this season will end? Because it starts in the beginning of
Mm.
December.
Right. It starts December 7th, and I don't know. I'm not gonna do maths in my head right
No,
now,
no,
but spontaneously I feel like it would end after March
yeah.
if it just kept running like weekly.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, maybe, I don't know. I mean, at the very least, it wouldn't be. I guess it wouldn't be too far off.
No, and that's true. It'd be close enough.
It would be relatively close. I mean, absolutely, it would be, because the the manga would end during the time that the final season is airing. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that alone
Pretty cool.
is definitely cool.
Yeah, I agree.
One more thing about kind of their situation right now, the alliance in regards to Eren and all that. I, as I said before, I think Reiner's position with Zeke is favorable
Mm-hmm.
to Reiner, or well, Zeke. Well, the Beast Titan might be a better way to call it, because
Yeah,
it might not necessarily be Zeke, or at the
correct.
very least, probably not Zeke controlling it. But uh, that's looking good. And then you said, and I agree with what you said about Armin, the way he words this, the way he's the final question he says to Aaron here, it makes it sound like, yeah, he's not gonna just straight up go kill him immediately.
Mm-hmm.
However, he is probably still going to use his colossal titan. I feel like it would be a waste to not have any colossal titan action for this whole arc, you know.
Yeah, good
So
point.
so I just had the idea that, what if Armin uses his colossal titan transformation nuke to kind of blow up Aaron's backside?
To make him stop.
And yeah, because I guess he wouldn't be able to walk anymore if like the back half of his body was blown up or something like that. And then he would, yeah, and then he would be stopped, and then Peak could use the bombs to blow up wherever they figure out that he is residing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then you could pull them out and talk to him. But maybe that's too easy. I don't know. It probably is. It probably is too easy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because then, we got Reiner dealing with the Beast Titan, we got Armin blowing up to stop Eren, and then we got Peak kind of revealing Eren. Like, in the best of worlds, that would happen very easily like that. But it's probably not.
Well, I mean, I think that is still a possibility. It's just the details that it won't be as easy as just saying that. Like
Oh yeah,
there could be like obstacles into that. So I think it still would
absolutely.
be a worthwhile endeavor and be fun to watch, fun to read.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm still unsure if Armin's gonna use his Titan. I mean, they did bring it up, so there is a kind of a push towards that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But I mean, I also wonder if Armin's gonna try to not do it. That I mean, yeah, because you gotta think of this the alliance right now. I mean, they're in relatively close distance to where Armin is. So unless they can get protected somehow, I mean, Reiner's kind of preoccupied at the moment
Yeah.
from Armin's like nuclear thing. Then I don't know. Like it may not be the best idea at this point. I
Yeah.
guess he could swing all the way over to the end, and maybe that'd be far enough to not
I
cause
imagine it
enough
would be.
damage.
I think
Yeah,
so. Aaron's Titan is huge.
it's true. It is very big, very very big. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not gonna happen that way, but I just
Mm.
we'll see.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, yeah. It's not like this is exactly how it's going to happen because it was a very basic kind of idea, but it's just like I could see based on how things are in this final page of this chapter, I could see the Alliance definitely stopping Aaron here.
Hmm.
I mean, they have two Ackermans and they have three Titans plus two other Titans maybe incoming,
Yeah,
flying in later on. So I think they have what it takes to stop Aaron, but the world is probably still doomed.
yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm excited to see how the fight goes, and
Mm,
yeah, this next chapter and maybe subsequent chapters. It I mean, if the next chapter is a continuation, it's not set in stone, obviously. But
mm.
that's what I'm thinking, and I'm excited to see what sort of twists and um, intricacies he puts in it, if any, or maybe it'll be as simple just, okay, take it all down. Okay, Aaron, pull out Aaron. All right, start talking.
Levi kicks him a little bit.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, they'll stop Aaron. I think everything is leading to that point. They'll stop Aaron, and that
Mm.
will it'll be kind of a last minute kind of thing where the baby that from the previous page will it's about to be squished, but then at the very end, like they stop the Titans and somehow they make it all stop. I
Yeah.
mean, it'd be convenient, but come on, it's a story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's
and
gonna be something with that baby. So yeah.
yeah, so I think it'll just be like really close in that sense, and yeah, that's my thinking going forward. Um,
Mm.
obviously I mentioned the maybe we'll find out more about something controlling Aaron, but that's not set in stone, and yeah, I guess one other thing I'll say is that where's Zeke in all this? Is he in the Beast Titan's body or is he somewhere else?
Mm.
And will he show up in this next chapter? I mean, it's more likely than Astoria for me. I think that it's possible that Levi will go straight for the nape of the Beast Titan, and we'll find out if he's in there. And then if he is, we'll probably we might hear something from Zeke if he's not unconscious. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I absolutely also think, like at least on this in this scene here,
Hmm.
it's very likely that we'll get some Zeke stuff pretty soon.
Zeke fans, rejoice!
Yeah. Yes. I'm excited. Although at the same time, I think Zeke's story, at least, his main story kind of ended with the Paths chapters.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, but I still absolutely would like to know, his whereabouts exactly and just what he thinks of all of this, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Would be interesting. And I guess I'm most inclined to believe he is inside of this Beast Titan, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's hard to say exactly.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Do you have any more predictions?
No, I've kind of given him as we gone. Again, you stole my thunder with the baby being in the last panel thing.
Oh.
But that's
Oh.
okay because I guess it may not have been a very unique thought anyway. But
Yeah, it's probably several people have probably thought of it.
probably.
As soon as you see a baby, it's like,
Oh,
oh,
no,
that baby.
I know what I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
anyway, yeah, I think that's about it. Although
mm,
I feel like there's something else, but I don't think I could think. Oh, there is something.
mm.
I remembered it.
All right, go
So
for it.
I don't know if I mentioned this in last month's podcast, but I explained my thoughts on this in the Discord, and feel free to join the Discord to see
Yeah.
my thoughts on that. I would love for the Titan curse to be dissolved, to be taken away. Not because I think that will end discrimination against the Eldians. It won't. But I think it gets rid of the 13-year curse or the death thing. it gets rid of potentially being used as weapons by governments and other malicious people. And there was a third thing I can't remember what the third thing was, but it does a third
Oh.
thing too. So
Right.
um, and I think that they've kind of the Eldian people have been bound and changed by this supernatural power that they had no choice in,
Mm.
and neither did Ymir, but obviously it happened. And I think for Ymir's peace of mind, so she can be finally free from having to build Titan bodies, and to kind of bring truth to Aaron's words when he said that I'm gonna where basically he's gonna make her free. I forget his exact words, but when he embraces her or whatever,
Yeah.
he basically promises her freedom. I think the true freedom would be getting rid of that power, however that may be. So
Right.
those are my thoughts on that, and I don't know. We're not at the point where that is clearly going to happen, but I would love to see it. Now, if it doesn't,
Mm.
if that's not a possibility in this lore, getting rid of those powers and those powers are permanent, then of course they should keep them and never be discriminated for that. These are people. I totally understand that, and no one should ever change who they are unless it's harmful. Unless they're trying to kill people. Um,
Mm.
no one should change who they are um, to conform to other people. But this is not about conforming. This is about getting rid of a curse that is supernatural and is not what these people want. So
Yeah.
that's my take on the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. I kind of skimmed through that discussion on the Discord, like after the fact. I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm a little torn on it. I 100% see your point of view, and I think I have had that mindset completely in the past.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I see other people's points as well. But one point that I just personally kind of feel like that I would kind of like for it to not be, erased. I don't know. This doesn't seem like the kind of story that would have that kind of that kind of ending where everything is just resolved that perfectly, I suppose.
I disagree because again, it's about the freedom, and
True.
giving Ymir freedom is giving Ymir and Aaron freedom from this curse. It would be essential for the final panel to say now you're free. Like to me,
Mm.
that it fits perfectly. But again, if it's not possible, then I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, no, it's hard to say. I could totally see it go either way, and I would probably be fine with it going either way.
Yeah, I mean, I would be too. Like, I'm not going to complain if they don't change anything. Especially if even if there is a possibility that they could change. But at the end of the day, you're like, you know what? We're going to learn to live with this, and we're going to be okay. And I'd be like, okay,
Mm.
sure. If that's the decision you make, let's go for it.
Yeah.
But I just don't see that being the decision that they make, because that's not the kind of story this is. This is not the story of we're gonna accept ourselves as these with these powers. That's not it. This is
Mm.
about gaining freedom in various aspects. I know I'm a freedom. You probably think I have like American flag over my shirt right now. I don't. It's a picture of Mikasa with her red scarf.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh yes, you bought that shirt. Right,
I
that's right.
did.
I love it.
But anyway, those are my thoughts, and feel free to disagree with me. Put in the comment or agree with Petter. Like, you know, either way.
I mean,
Well, I know Petter. I know you're in the middle of this. You're like, you're.
I really am.
Yeah, I understand that. I didn't mean to say that you were against me or anything like that. But feel free to agree or disagree, and that's totally fine. And I respect your opinions, and I respect people's perspectives, because I understand people have different thoughts, and that's what's so great about this series is people can interpret things so differently in different ways. And me saying this story is about freedom probably is absurd to another person, which I think is absurd, but that's fine. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine.
they think it's different. They think it's about accepting their humanity. I mean, I think that's kind of a sub thing. But if you think that is the main point of it all, then that's totally fine. That's why this story is so good. You can get so much out of it.
Absolutely. I think the discussions we've had with the people in our Discord server this month has been like some of the most like just interesting and kind of
Yeah.
partially fun to observe and also fun to engage in. Because there's been a lot of like disagreements, but at the same time we've kept it's never been like bad in any way. It's just
No.
been it's been debates, and I think I have had a lot of fun taking part in those and observing those.
Yeah. For sure.
It's been a lot of fun. And actually, this chapter, like when I read it the first time, I felt like it was kind of a non-chapter, or like
Oh,
it
really?
felt like not much progress was made. It was just
Yeah.
kind of like they reached Aaron, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
At first, that was my and I mean at the core that it is like technically not much headway was made during this chapter, but I mean based on how much we've been talking about it now, we've been talking for almost 2 hours, or well at least more than an hour and a half. And I guess it is just like a normal chapter in regards to how much discussion it sparks, and also in our Discord server it sparked a lot of discussion there as well.
For
So I think
sure.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It not a whole lot happened in terms of, time passing, but like we said earlier, there was a lot of imagery. There was a lot of
Oh
kind of
yes.
message you could take from that, and
Hmm.
we got to see them, land on Aaron, and we know where Zeke is. Well, we know that Aaron's using the Beast Titan in some way. Very interesting stuff happened, and in a lot of ways, I think
Hmm.
this is an epic finale to this volume, and that's why I loved it so much. I think I
Yes.
give it a on a scale of 10, I probably give like 8 out of 10, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a great chapter, and I'm excited. It gets me excited for what's going to happen, you know, going forward.
I agree completely. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10 just because I'm generally kind of picky with rating things, because I'm always like, okay, there's actually quite a couple of things that I enjoyed more than this chapter. I did love it though, and as you said, I think it's a perfect final chapter for this presumably second to last volume, despite the amount of cheese and not too much
Lack of Historia.
lack of historia, and and also not technically a whole lot happening in it.
Yeah.
But one thing I really enjoyed, like other than the ending, which is fantastic, I really loved the visuals on the first couple of pages with just how we see the rumbling.
Yeah.
There was really good.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's it for this episode.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, you can join our Discord server again. I feel like we mentioned the Discord server more in this
Please.
episode than we ever have before, but feel free to join it if you enjoy talking, or if you enjoy listening to us. I'm sure you'll enjoy talking to us and other people in that Discord server. You can find James other things beyond Titan Teasm. You can find him on Nintensity on YouTube, where he covers a lot of gaming and Nintendo related topics, video discussions, waifu royale battle discussions, really good stuff. And you can find me as Leon Morris on SoundCloud and YouTube, where I compose and produce my own music that I write. And thank you once again for listening to yet another episode of Titan Teatime, and we will see you guys next month for chapter 135. Bye bye!
Bye bye.
I had Aaron like back turned like the other way in my head there for some reason. Okay, thank you for clearing that up for me though, because yeah, I was so confused by that.
It's a nice butt.
It is. Oh my god. I yeah. We'll talk more about that, but off recording, I think. For
We'll save it for the after dark tea time.